going to be our first match of the San Antonio Regional Championships. You have Nathan Stratford on the left with that Arceus VSTAR, Reggie Gigas VSTAR, and Robbie Weidman with Charizard EX, Pidgeot EX.
Yeah, Robert, someone who's been around for a long time. Looking at this deck list here, a 4-digit player ID. And when you're issued a player ID, it's based on, when you sign up for the Play Pokemon program. So he's been around for quite some time.
And then, of course, Nathan says he's addicted to Arceus VSTAR. I know how that feels.
Yeah, absolutely.
We meet at a support group a little bit later after the regionals if you want to show up, but yeah.
Addicted to Arceus. It's a hard thing to put down, without a doubt. Now let's see how things shape up in this matchup. As we're getting ready for it, Jeremy, do you have any kind of predictions on how this would go? I can't imagine this is something that either of us has really put much thought into how these matchups would go.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look. There's 3 stadium outs along with a lost vacuum for Robbie's deck. So 4 outs to the 3 Paths of the Peak in Nathan's deck. And you see there, Paths of the Peak, ooh, 2 of them in the prize cards to go along with Double Turbo, Psychic, that Spiritomb, and Radiant Alakazam. Meanwhile,
yeah,
wow, 2 Charmander.
And 3 energy as well. That's almost a bigger deal to me looking at Robbie's side. That many energy cards in the prize cards is really annoying for the Charizard deck. Sure, he'll still have decent access to the 7 that he does play, so he'll have 4 left to work with, but that's only enough to power up 2 Charizards. If you have to retreat in order to get some movement around your board, get something out of the active spot, you're going to be hard-pressed to find those energies off your prizes. And of course, 2 Charmanders, really not great prizes for either of our 2 players. We'll see how it shapes up.
All right, Manaphy in the active up against Arceus V. Perfect start for Nathan here. Not so much for Robbie.
Yeah, pretty solid. You get the Arceus and you get the Nest Ball. The big thing I'm going to have a question of is, does Nathan have the energy card? That is the big part of these Arceus decks. Getting a turn 1 Arceus and then also getting an energy card to place onto it so you can set up for that turn 2 Trinity Nova, get some energies accelerated into play, and then go from there.
And now Nathan is playing Psychic Energy with this Arceus VSTAR. And oh, look at that hand. There's Double Turbo, there's Psychic Energy, but he's playing Zacian V to try to help get that turn 1 energy if you don't have it. So this Nest Ball could have found a Zacian V to charge up the energy.
That's a good point as well. And that Zacian as well, if you just load a bunch of energy cards up onto it, we see it in the Gardevoir deck all the time. Or in the Gardevoir matchup, I should say, that Gardevoir deck is able to utilize so many energies in order to get one-hit KOs on Pokemon like the Charizard. So we'll see if Nathan is able to do the same, as he is able to get that energy. Now over to Robbie.
And more importantly, that Double Turbo energy. And Robbie, for the start of the turn, having the Arven. This is probably the most important card in this Charizard deck.
Yeah, and this is why it was huge for Robbie to go second. I don't know who won the coin flip, who chose first, who chose second, but this is the prime reason why going second with this Arven Charizard deck is so important. You need to play Battle VIP Pass. If you do not play Battle VIP Pass, your turn is pretty weak, and your next turn, subsequent turns are going to be pretty weak from there on out. So having access to the Arven gives you so much more ability to find that turn 1 VIP pass, and Robbie's already pulled tons of Pokemon up to the front of the deck, doing some prize checking, and I have to imagine we'll see a Charmander or 2 hit the bench.
I want to talk back on the fire energy count for these Charizard decks. They have gotten lower and lower the more that these lists have gotten refined throughout these tournaments. 7 seems very low to me.
It is pretty low. It is pretty low. You also run the risk of something getting kind of stuck in your active spot and just not being able to move it. You can manage the 7. Of course, the Super Rod kind of helps you at some point in the game to get a few back. It is just enough, but you really kind of need the majority of them to get things rolling.
Well, this is a combo if I've ever seen one. Arven gets that Forest Seal Stone and Battle VIP Pass. Battle VIP Pass will find that Rotom V able to use that Forest Seal Stone along with its draw power to end your turn. And that Forest Seal Stone can go find another Battle VIP Pass if you want.
Yeah, and I think it's probably worth it to get another VIP pass here. We'll see what Robert decides to do. He definitely wants to try to bench 2 Charmander. Sometimes in certain matchups, you're okay putting down just 1 Charmander, 1 Pidgey, and just rolling with that, hanging on to more stuff for future turns. But in this instance, when Nathan already has attached an energy to an Arceus, if you don't put a second Charmander down, Nathan is very easily threatening the Arceus VSTAR, Boss's Orders, energy, boom, take a knockout on your only Charmander.
Especially with the 2 Charmander in the prize cards as well, could prove a little bit detrimental. Here we do see that Star Alchemy from that 4 Seal Stone. Going to go ahead and fetch a Battle VIP Pass, get a couple more basics, but that hand not doing too much, really going to have to rely off this Rotom V.
Yeah, the Rotom is going to be big, and I think Robert is debating getting the Mew for the reason of this hand being a little weak. If you put the Mew down, it becomes something you can promote to try to give yourself a little bit more to search for, and I do like this decision as well. You know, you assume these Arceus decks are probably playing Path to the Peak, so getting the Mew into play gives you a decent chance to try to find something like Lost Vacuum on the next turn so you can get more draw power going.
Does opt for that Mew along with that Charmander. And is there energy in Robbie's hand?
I don't think there is. So I don't think we'll see the Mew utilized this turn, but, you know, Nathan, you're assuming is going to take a knockout, so it becomes a great thing to promote.
There's Escape Rope.
Could go with that, and that would be a little annoying for Nathan as well, because it pushes the Arceus to the active that does not have an energy card.
This will allow Robbie to use that Mysterious Tail off the Mew, maybe find a rare candy for next turn here. Beautiful sleeves, by the way.
Yeah, I love it. Looking through these top 6, trying to find an item card. Lost Vacuum would be a fine thing to hit as well. Does at least find that rare candy. And yeah, I think the big thing for Robert is going to be wanting to find a way to bump a stadium next turn. You have to assume Nathan's going to put Path in play. Now, we know that there's 2 Path prized, so it might be a little more difficult for Nathan to get there. But of course, through the power of Arceus VSTAR, you can get any single card out of your deck.
What?
Any single 2 cards.
That's crazy. Yeah, Arceus VSTAR has been around for a while, and at least Nathan has an Escape Rope of his own in the hand, so can go ahead and get that Arceus VSTAR with that double turbo energy back to the active.
And this is kind of interesting here. I think the obvious choice for Robert is to promote this Manaphy, but now it opens things up. Nathan does play 1 copy of Avery in the deck, and if he went for Avery as his supporter for turn, which he has in the hand,
yeah.
Robert has kind of a tough call. I think the Rotom can go, that's fine, but yeah, you don't want to bench discard one of the Charmanders with 2 prized. You probably just have to get rid of the Mew, which is definitely annoying.
You also have a Boss's Orders. You can Boss's Orders something like
option.
That Pidgey. Or even the Rotom, just take 2 prizes right away.
Rotom does have the 190. I don't know if Nathan plays the... It does have a Choice Belt, so it would be an option. But he's actually just going to chase after the Charmander and not using his V-Star power here. You think he's potentially saving it for a Regigigas?
Maybe. It is a way to just get rid of a big Charizard EX if you want. But Trinity Nova is going to take the knockout on that Blazing Destruction Charmander, which is important just because it's one of the ways to get out of Path to the Peak later on as well. It does take up your attack, but 3 energy on that Arceus V, and Nathan finds that Path to the Peak from the prize cards.
Yeah, didn't use the V-Star power, so no Path to the Peak was put into play this turn. So honestly, Robert probably breathing a bit of a sigh of relief there. Has a rare candy into the Pidgeot, and I think there's a rare candy into Charizard in this hand as well.
Embarrassment of riches here. Little sweet tooth for Robbie, but able to get that Pidgeot EX and Charizard EX down. You can use that Infernal Rain, charge up that Charizard, and get the energy on the Mew to retreat.
And there's a lot of plays open for Robert now. Counter Catcher live since Nathan took a prize. Defiance Band live since Nathan took a prize. So we could see Robert maybe try to chase down this Arceus on the bench. It has 220 HP. You're dealing 210 right now with the Burning Darkness. If you can find that Defiance Band, you can get that knockout.
I guess you could either find the Defiance Band or the Counter Catcher. Something like with the Mew.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Mew has to get the Counter Catcher, can't get that tool card. But, of course, with Pidgeot in play, we know any single card can be grabbed. And Boss's Orders is already even in this hand.
2 bosses, actually. Mysterious Tail is going to look at the top 6 here.
Yeah, would love to find... Maybe the Counter Catcher could save the boss. Finds a rare candy. There's that Defiance Band, but cannot, unfortunately, grab it.
I like taking the Battle VIP pass, maybe.
Just to thin it out.
Yeah.
Does grab the rare candy. Something that is annoying for Robert as well with that Charmander going down. Not going to be able to bench another one until some are taken out of the prizes or a Super Rod is played.
Seems pretty simple, straightforward play here, though. Quick search for that Defiance Band. You have the Boss's Orders in hand, and with the damage increase from that prize being taken, you will have enough to take the knockout on the Arceus V.
And Robert should know that this Charizard is going to be safe, and that's why you can make plays like this, knowing that you've just got 1 Charizard for right now, because you know your opponent doesn't have any way to deal 330 damage this turn.
It's a lot of damage.
It's a lot of HP to try to get over without a doubt. Boss's Orders now does bring up this Arceus.
Simple, straightforward, show up to regionals, take knockouts. That's basically what Robbie wants to do. Defiance Band attached for that Charizard EX, so we'll have the knockout here. Not much else play from the hand, though.
Does have that Lumineon. Could think about using it here so that you can maybe get a good supporter in hand if your opponent does put down a path, but Nathan will just draw for turn, sends up his Arceus V-Star. I think he did find an Iono off the top, so that is decent.
Going to use that Starbirth here right before you play that Path to the Peak Iono combo that is ever so loved by me.
And all Arceus players alike. 2 cards to grab here. I gotta imagine one is going to be Bibarel. You want to evolve that Bidoof, get the Bibarel in play, use those Industrious Incisors to continue to draw cards throughout the course of the game, and Regigigas V being brought to the front.
Just straight up showing the Starbirth.
Yeah,
I'm going to get this Regigigas and
yes.
a B-Barrel. Overall, it's going to be a pretty good turn here for Nathan. Defiance Band no longer active for Robbie, so only going to be doing 210 with that Charizard EX. You can kind of play around it a little.
But you see that path will come out. That's a huge deal. He's going to go for the Bibarel before playing supporter for turn.
Going to draw 3 cards here with Industrious Incisors.
Does find that Mew EX. That's a nice little pivot to have access to. You, of course, can't accelerate to it with the Trinity Nova. It only gets energy cards onto Pokemon V that you have in play. And I don't see any way to move energy cards around.
No Poppy.
No Poppy. That's one of the things you see sometimes. Also, Energy Switch. You'll see those pop up in some of these Arceus decks. But looks like Mew most likely just going to be here for the pivot. For now, though, just an Iono as the play.
Does find a bunch of Pokemon off this Iono. Nest Ball, go ahead and search the deck, just thin the card out. I don't know if you really need another V right now, but the Bidoof could be useful.
Yeah, setting up a couple of Bibarel is always solid. Of course, Squovet could be an option as well. Hide some cards on the bottom. Combos, of course, super nicely with the Bibarel. Will just be a Bidoof. I like this. Try to get yourself set up for the future turns. And it will be a Trinity Nova, dealing 180 damage.
It's going to be enough to be able to take a 2-hit knockout on this Charizard EX. And that's really kind of what you have to do. There's not really going to be much other way to take this down other than just trying to attack around it. But if you do that, you're just boosting up that Burning Darkness from that Charizard EX.
See the draw on Robert's end. That path in play does turn off your ability to use the Pidgeot, so really has no choice here. Just plays that Iono, shuffles both players' hands to the bottom.
Iono has just been such a powerful supporter card ever since it came out. Really format warping.
Yeah, without a doubt. We see it played in most decks that are competitive at this point. Would you see the counter stadium for Robert? Do you know if a Charmander was taken off the prizes?
It was, yeah.
Okay, so we could see that come into play here. With the quick search, there's also Ultra Ball in the hand. I don't think you want to Ultra Ball away the Arven, most likely.
Yeah, I just like quick searching for the Charmander here. Maybe a Nest Ball to thin out the Charmander or something like that. Maybe Level Ball. And then next turn, you can Ultra Ball or an Arven combination, get that rare candy. Smooth sailing.
Yeah, gonna need to find a way to bump a stadium if Nathan can find another path. And yeah, path is just got to be the supremely important card in this matchup for Nathan. You want to try to limit the Charizard abilities as much as possible. And Robert as well, let's not forget, a lot of energy cards in the prizes. So even if there is a Charizard available, I'm not even sure how many energy cards are available.
Discarded 1 off the retreat to the Mew, but did grab 1 from the prize cards with the 2 prize knockout off the Arceus.
2 currently in the prizes then. 2 currently in the deck, I should say, at least. 2 in the prizes.
Robbie really debating this Ultra Ball here, but I like holding on to it. Just deal your damage and try to get out of there as clean as possible.
It's going to be 210 damage. Of course, Defiance Band only works when you are behind on prize cards. Robert taking that knockout last turn. Went a little aggressive, and then now it's going to be dealing a little bit less. See the draw on Nathan's end. It is that Box of Disasters. Not going to be useful at this point, but could be, honestly, something that comes up later as Charizard gets stronger throughout the game.
Iono did find the second B-Barrel for Nathan, though, so a lot of draw power here, but not really much thinning in the hand. You can play that Box of Disaster, maybe Lost Vacuum, that Forest Sealstone, or the Lost City.
Yeah.
Get rid of that Arceus V that you don't need.
Yeah, Arceus V not useful at this point, so it makes sense to lose that. One card apiece for each of these players in the Lost Zone. And that first Bibro will be utilized. Ooh, there's that Regigigas V-Star. Not going to be super strong at this point. I guess you could retreat your Charizard into the Regigigas to take the knockout, try to protect this Arceus if you wanted to.
Yeah. Regigigas V-Star, Giga Impact, 3 energy, 230 damage, can't attack during the next turn. And then, of course, Nathan has already used that V-Star power, but Star Guardian, if your opponent has exactly one prize card remaining, choose one of your opponent's benched Pokemon, and they discard that and all cards attached to it. So, pretty powerful ability, but doesn't really get much use.
Yeah, I could see it being good in this matchup, to be honest. And we actually will see the boss's orders trying to target down this Charmander. 4 more cards drawn for Nathan. I could see the Regigigas being good in this matchup. Obviously, Nathan already had to use his V-Star power beforehand. But yeah, if you can at some point in this matchup go Star Guardian, discard the Pidgeot plus Iono, that puts the Charizard deck in a pretty tough spot.
I do like the boss's orders on the Charmander just because Charmanders are a lot easier to knock out than a Charizard EX.
And there's already so much damage on this Charizard. You know you will be able to deal with it eventually.
Spiritomb grab from the prizes there.
And now is a little bit of pressure on Robert. Really does need to find another Charmander this turn. And we know with one prized, it's going to have to be through playing the Super Rod.
Arvin, to start things off, though, Robbie did draw into a Charizard EX, which would have been useful if that Charmander was still in play. But now you're going to have to try to cobble together this Super Rod in with something like a quick search for Level Ball, or just the Charmander again.
Yeah, you can tell Robert has really been paying attention to the meta. He's got a lot of techs in his deck this week, and he's got that Radiant Serena in here that's really strong against the Lost Zone decks. It's also pretty good against Urshifu, and he's also got the Tool Jammer that we were kind of hinting at earlier, another good way to, you know, kind of get around that TM devolution that's so good in the Urshifu and the Lost Zone decks.
Not only that, you also can get around Box of Disaster.
Yeah, yeah, and that is something that we could see come up here.
Super Odd shuffles back into Charmander and a Fire Energy. Quick Search will grab that Charmander and rinse and repeat, just like last turn. But now you're able to get a 2-prize knockout and inching ever closer to winning this game 1.
Yeah, gonna sneak ahead here, but is gonna just have a Charmander in play with that Pidgeot. So this is a prime time for Nathan to pull together the classic Arceus combo, Iono plus Path to the Peak.
Little less classic than Judge Path, but I get it. I get it. Iono's the better supporter now.
Yep, yep. No Judge even included in this list here for Nathan. Judge is that old tech. We're on to the new technology now.
Free retreat with that Pidgeot EX, and there's the Burning Darkness for the KO on Arceus V-Star. Robbie down to 2 prize cards left. And Nathan bringing out the big guns here.
Ooh, and that is a huge top deck. Path to the Peak. There's only one left in the deck. We know one is still prized. One already got discarded and finds this Path to the Peak. That was going to be the biggest thing that Nathan needed to find. It was going to have the hardest time getting it, and he just draws it from the top of the deck.
You love to see it. There's the Iono, going to put Robbie down to 2 cards, Nathan to 4, but you have both of those B-Barrel with Industrious Incisors. It's definitely not going to be the end of this turn.
Robert here needing to find some help. Looks like it's just an Ultra Ball and a boss on his end. He is really going to need to top deck a Stadium, I think, if he wants to have a chance in this one. Do you see Nathan plays the Ultra Ball, going to get that Squovet. We talked about how this can combo super nicely with the Bibarel, and I think we'll see that play out most likely this turn.
If I remember right, Squovet's pretty good at drawing Giratina V-Star, so maybe we'll see that.
That Jet Energy, honestly, is a pretty good card to have right now. Of course, Regigigas' attack effect says you can't attack with it in subsequent turns. So Jet Energy onto the Spiritomb, send it up, and then just retreat. Get it back to the bench, and then all of a sudden your Regigigas can attack in back-to-back turns. So we might actually see Nathan hold off on the Nest Stash because he knows that Jet Energy is going to be pretty good for him next turn.
Honestly, it's also very good at maybe something like Boss Stall on a B-Barrel. You can just Jet Energy something back up and get that Regigigas V-Star back in the active.
Sure enough, we will see no Nest Stash, just a draw of one. Pretty useless card there with that Arceus, but Nathan absolutely in the driver's seat, taking another 2 prizes. The game is tied up, but Robert really can't do much. 2 cards in hand, draws for turn. Is it something helpful?
That is not helpful at all.
It would be if you could quick search, because you could just go quick search, Charizard, rare candy, boom, we're set up. Just doesn't have that option available. Path to the Peak showing exactly why it is so good.
Robbie does retreat to the Mew here. You can Mysterious Tail, hopefully find a Lost Vacuum or something like that. You see that collapsed stadium, but cannot take that stadium card with Mysterious Tail.
Yeah, it might just be a grab of the Level Ball here. Level Ball for the Charmeleon. Evolve that Charmander into Charmeleon and just cross your fingers your opponent does not have boss's orders. Could get a second Charmander, but you still are in a situation where you're going to need a Stadium card next turn. I guess you need a Stadium regardless if you get Charmeleon or Charmander. This like plays around it either way, but I'm just having a hard time seeing how Robert can find enough cards to pull this off.
The resources are definitely running very thin, and is just going to have to pass the turn back here after this Level Ball.
Does have Boss, so we could see that be something. You know, try to buy a turn, like you were mentioning, bring up that Bibarel.
But again, you're resetting that Regigigas too.
Exactly. And there's plenty of double turbos left for Nathan to retreat. Robert might not be expecting the jet energies, but we know those are hanging around, which, speaking of, here it comes. Bring that Spiritomb active. And then now that Regigigas has gone to the bench, that attack effect resets, and it will be able to be utilized in back-to-back turns.
Here you see the Nest Stash now, shuffling the hand, put it to the bottom, draw 1 card.
Choice Belt.
Choice Belt.
Let's just attach it, get it out of the hand so we can draw more with Industrious Incisors.
Honestly, I'm not sure there's much Nathan's looking for outside of something like a boss's orders.
Yeah, I think Nathan is recognizing that this turn, or this game, is pretty much just riding on this Regigigas. You don't need to set up another attacker necessarily. Manually powering up an Arceus, something like that, seems like pretty tough to do. So we're just going to Ultra Ball all these cards away. It's this Regigigas or bust at this point.
Industrious Incisors drawing 5 cards, needs a boss's orders off the top of the deck to be able to bring up that Rotom V and take this game 1 here.
5 cards to come. One specific card wins him the game. See if he can find those pieces.
Let's see the boss's orders.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does he find it? There it is.
He found both.
2 of them. More than enough to deal with that Rotom. Take the KO. And Nathan takes a pretty convincing game number 1.
Convincing. The prizes definitely helped a little bit for both players, honestly. Not seeing that turn 1 Path to the Peak against Robbie, but then having just the Charmander troubles, the energy troubles. One way you can get around Path to the Peak is just by attaching fire energy to your Charmander. That way, even if there is one in play, you can still Rare Candy Charizard, attach another fire.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, Robert just really never had an opportunity to do any of that. And we saw the strength of Path to the Peak in this game. Pretty solid turn from Robert here. Was able to bring up the Arceus V. Takes the 2 prize KO to jump ahead, but the board position was still definitely solid for Nathan. Had the Arceus, still had the V-Star power available. 2 prize KO for Robert was strong, but wasn't ultimately enough.
Yeah, the biggest thing here, no Charmander on the bench, so it takes you a few turns to try to get that set up, and Nathan opting to hunt down that Charmander with boss's orders. And then here we see just trying to get thin out the deck as much as possible.
Yep, take
that knockout and then set up the game for the next turn. And here was that Industrious Incisors finding that boss's orders to be able to take the KO on that Rotom V.
Yeah. The biggest part of this game was on that turn where Nathan was able to find that last Path to the Peak. If he doesn't find that last Path to the Peak, I don't know, is a lot weaker when your opponent still gets to use Pidgeot, quick search, get any single card. See these prize cards going out. A bunch of energy cards on Nathan's end. That 1 Charmeleon on Robert's side. Nothing too terrible. I think it's better than last game for both of our players, but still not ideal.
Nathan's going to start things off with the Nest Ball, though. We'll be able to find Arceus V, if that's the card of choice. When you're playing in the Arceus V-Star deck, you always want Arceus V on the first turn, along with that turn 1 energy, like you were saying.
Yep, that is the bare minimum that you want. You can work with just about anything else in your hand as long as you get an Arceus and get an energy card. So it does start that Jirachi. Good tech for the weekend, I would say. not great in this matchup.
Yeah, very good against cards like Sableye, Medicham V. Not very good against Charizard.
Yeah, not really going to be protecting any bench damage counters here. It is Arceus V as the choice off the Nest Ball. We'll see if the energy in hand accompanies it.
Nathan did take a quick check of the prize cards to see what of any importance is prized, and double turbo energy.
Yeah, I think Nathan would love to have gotten a Bidoof down, especially with a bunch of Bibarel in this hand already, but just did not have access to it. And looks like things are looking pretty solid here for Robert. There's a Charmander already, and I do see that Battle VIP pass.
Yeah, Battle VIP pass along with that Charmander. You can go ahead and grab another Charmander and the Rotom or Pidgey, Rotom. We're probably just going to see Rotom and another Pokemon.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Rotom Pidgey, and then I think Iono is going to be the supporter of for turn here on Robert's end. So go for the Pidgey. You've only got 2 of them, but you've got 3 Charmanders in the deck. So grab the Pidgey. You definitely want to get one of those down, and then play the Iono. Give yourself a pretty decent shot to find a Charmander off those 6 cards. Plus, you would of course, have Mysterious Tail to work with Level Ball and Ultra Ball being things you could hit. Robert also does have Ultra Ball in hand. It can be a little awkward to play the Ultra Balls early in this deck. They are pretty important to find your stage 2s later on in the game, but if he feels like he needs to guarantee the other Charmander, we might see him play it before the Iono.
It is going to be rough discarding 2 Ultra Ball, I believe, depending on the resources
Yeah, he's either going to have to
Robbie's
discard
hand,
another Ultra Ball, or he might have to discard a couple supporters. We'll
Yeah.
see what ends up happening.
So with the Battle VIP pass, does grab that Pidgey and that Rotom V. I'm going to take a quick look. All right, 4 Seal Stones in the deck. Let's take a look at the stadiums. My opponent is playing Path to the Peak.
Yeah, wants to check the stadium outs. Is the Lost Vacuum in there as well? Yep, sure enough. Looks like he's got all of his stadium bumps available. And we'll see the shuffle, and with the shuffle, I think we're probably not seeing the Ultra Ball, recognizing they're pretty important later on. I'm just going to spin the wheel with the Iono and see what we grab.
Hopefully some Pokemon cards. 6 of them off the top at least.
Yeah, and definitely looking for just one more Charmander. It is very risky to have just one single Charmander in play. If it is, that becomes a very easy target for Nathan, through the VSTAR power most likely.
Is it worth it to Mysterious Tail before the Iono?
I think probably not. If you're going to Iono regardless, you see 6 cards here, and then after Iono, you get to see 6 more cards. So you effectively get to see the top 12, whereas if you go Mysterious Tail first, you see 6, you maybe get to take 1, then you play Iono, then you're only seeing 6 cards. So it's effectively just seeing 7 cards as opposed to this way, you get to see 12.
6 cards off this Iono. Wow. 4 Sealstone found. No Charmander, though. Jirachi and that Radiant Serena.
Yeah, I think hoping to find the Battle VIP pass here. 6 cards. Let's see if he can do it. Does find that VIP pass. Absolutely massive. He would have had to play the 4 Sealstone and use it right away. You really want to try to save that in this matchup if you can. It's super strong for an out to the Path to the Peaks. It can also help you set up your rare candy plays on the next turn. So if you have to use it to set up turn 1, which is what we saw from Robert in game number 1, it gives you so many less options later on.
Double Charmander, maybe? Might go fetch the 60 HP one.
Now, something we didn't see from Nathan in game number 1 was that Avery. He had it in his hand, but he never ended up playing it. So it's probably not something that's on Robert's mind. But if you get a couple Charmanders here, you're going to just have to discard one of them if you get Avery pretty much right away.
Does look like that's what Robbie's going to go with here. 3 Charmander on the bench. Shades of worrying about last game. Looking at Nathan's hand, though, Office Iono looks pretty good. You got that Arceus VSTAR. You have an Energy. You have an Iono yourself.
Yeah, going to have solid options here on Nathan's end. I think he definitely wants to get Path, most likely this turn. Try to make it as hard as possible for the Charizard deck to pull any plays off. And Robert maybe preparing for that by attaching this Energy, going for the thing you mentioned of being able to at least just Rare Candy Charizard attach, worst case scenario.
And there is that instant charge from Rotom V. Finds a couple Energy and a Defiance Band. Not going to be too good there.
We do see Ultra Ball in Nathan's hand. He could get another Pokemon V out here. He also has that Zacian V.
Just get the Beat Barrel.
Yeah, Bibarel is an option. You do have Iono as well to work with. So I almost feel like you would rather guarantee a Pokemon to power up. You can get Bibarel later still, but you kind of want to have something else to get energies working on.
Ultra Ball will discard that Zacian V along with a Psychic Energy.
Interesting to see the Psychic Energy be the thing discarded. Could maybe have gotten rid of Choice Belt. Choice Belt, of course, lets you knock out the Rotom later in the game, potentially, but Regigigas also can accomplish that. And it will indeed be the Arceus as the choice. I like this.
Now you can even attach the Choice Belt if you want, but just having it in the deck for later is also very good.
And I think that's probably what Nathan will do. The Charizard deck does normally play a couple Lost Vacuum. Robert is just playing one. He actually will choose to attach it now. I guess he knows it's pretty safe unless it is hit by a Lost Vacuum because this Arceus is not going down anytime soon.
And hey, if Choice Belt gets Lost Vacuum, that's not a path to the peak.
Exactly. And pretty
Speaking
good
of,
draw here.
yeah.
Look at this. Jet Energy in order to bring the Arceus to the active. Also could Escape Rope if he wants to. And even has Path to the Peak, and he has not used Starbirth.
Who needs to use Starbirth at this point?
Not Nathan at this point.
Escape Rope will force Robbie to bring up something like just a Charmander or, bring up the Rotom. It's risky, but it also does power up your Charizard attacks for the rest of the game. Nathan's taken 2 prize cards.
It does, but it doesn't get you the knockout on an Arceus this turn. You're only going to be dealing max 270 damage with a Charizard in Defiance Band, so you come up just short still. But Robert maybe valuing those Charmanders super heavily. We saw what happened in Game 1. Nathan loved going after those Charmanders. That's maybe what his strategy is in this matchup. Robert, taking note of that, says, yeah, take this Rotom. I want to keep my Charmanders hanging around.
Path to the Peak does get played before that Trinity Nova, though, so Nathan taking the knockout, and no Rule Box Pokemon are allowed their abilities here, but Robbie still has that Mew to try to find something like a Lost Vacuum.
Yeah, and I think he does have Lost City in hand, so we will see the Counter Stadium come out on Robert's side. And there's a Rare Candy Charizard waiting as well, so pretty solid-looking hand here. Maybe hoping on the Mew to find something like a Ultra Ball for a Pidgeot. We'll see how Robert goes about this turn.
2 prize cards taken off that Rotom V.
And now the draw for turn. Does find the Iono, not too bad.
Iono is good here with Nathan not having B-Barrel in play. There is that Lost City to bump that Path to the Peak. Rare Candy, Charizard, Infernal Rain will charge up that Charizard and the Mew to retreat with now.
Yeah, and I like leaving this Charmander hanging around with the energy card on it on the bench. Being able to be an option to get rid of a stadium later on in the game. You know, there's a reason that this is the 70 HP Charmander that people are playing. It can be really strong to get rid of Path to the Peak. So if you have nothing better to do, you can at least promote that and have that as an option. Smart sequencing here as well from Robbie, using the Charizard first, putting these energy cards into play, and then going for maybe the Mysterious Tail. We also might just see the Iono right off the bat as well.
You can go that, or do you just hunt down for the prizes? Maybe if you are able to find a Pidgeot EX.
Yeah, then you can get Defiance Band. Same thing we saw in the last game, right?
Because you do have the boss's orders in hand already, so not even needing the Pidgeot to really hunt down that Arceus V.
Yeah, with 2 prizes being taken, does not need the Defiance Vest at all. There's the Pidgeot and the Ultra Ball to get it, so that is the grab. Let's see, what are the 2 cards you want to discard here, though? The energy has to be one, and then it's just whichever supporter you're not playing this turn, I guess.
I like discarding the Iono because you can quick search for a supporter for next turn.
Sure.
It looks like Robbie is doing just that here. Ultra Ball will fetch that Pidgeot EX.
And then we could also see this even just grab a Stadium card for next turn. That guarantees you that you'll be able to use quick search to get whatever you want. You don't have to commit to a supporter right now, right? Because you don't know exactly what your opponent's going to do. If you commit to, say, like an Arven or an Iono, you're going to be a little limited next turn with what you can do if your opponent puts a path in play.
Trading Card Game Masters, that is time.
And I think that's what Robbie is opting for here. That Lost City found off that quick search. I guess one detriment is if an Iono is played, it's going to the bottom of the deck. You have less of a chance to draw it.
It would be annoying for sure, but you know this Charizard, once again, is not getting knocked out. So you don't have to have a path counter next turn. You already have an attacker set up that's not going down.
There is the retreat of the Mew. Boss's orders brings up that Arceus V, and It is going to get sent to the Lost Zone thanks to Burning Darkness.
Yep, and that Lost City in play does get it out of here, and 2 prizes now for Robert, tying the game up. Let's see what Nathan can find. No Bibarel in play just yet. He definitely wants to find it, and there's really not much going on in this hand.
Still has access to Starbirth, though, so
Yep.
nothing is
True.
too bad at this stage.
There will be another Arceus V put into play. It's interesting because if you put the Regigigas V in play, it's got 240 HP. It does not get knocked out. Or no, the Burning
it
Darkness
does.
is doing
Yeah.
240 now. Yeah, there is the 2 prizes taken, not 1 like the last game. So Arceus V becomes a little bit better, I guess, in that instance. And looks like Squovit. Are we going to see the Nest Stash before using Starbirth? See what you draw and then decide if you need to go for it?
I like it.
Also has the option to Boss's Orders here. Could target one of these Charmanders. We saw Nathan really liked doing that in the last game. I think in this spot, with no damage on the Charizard,
Yeah.
you probably want to lay a little damage down on this first and then maybe thinking about going after some Charmanders.
Well, here we see the Starbirth. Nathan's going to eye down a Pat to the Peak. Maybe that B-Barrel as well.
Yeah, we could see the Iono, like you mentioned. I mean, we know that Robert grabbed a card off Quick Search last turn. Robert sequenced things very smartly. You know, he only had 1 card in hand. It was that Boss's Orders, but he chose to use Quick Search first. So now Nathan doesn't know for sure if the Quick Search was for the boss or was for something else that Robert decided to hold on to.
It's all about mind games for this Pokemon TCG.
You don't want to give your opponent free information, that is for sure.
For free?
It does indeed look like it was the Bibarel. Past the Peak is being played as well.
And now you can see the Nest Stash here. Get those cards to the bottom. They're all very good. Just Energies, Lost Vacuum, Boss's Orders. Not cards you want to discard off an Ultra Ball to try to thin the hand down with that B-Barrel. The
One single
card.
card. What is it? Okay. Going to be that Nest Ball. Probably get another Bidoof, I would assume. Ooh, the Alakazam is interesting.
Definitely helps with math in certain matchups. I don't think here it's going to matter too much.
Yeah, so the Alakazam can just be nice because you have a lot of wasted damage with this Arceus deck. You're dealing 180 damage, which is more than enough to 2-hit KO things, like this Charizard, for example. So if you hit for 180 here, and your opponent bumps your Stadium, that path's out of play, you can use that Alakazam's ability to move those damage counters around. You know, we could even see something like this 60 HP Mew on the bench eventually being KO'd by some just extra damage movement.
180. Choice Belt does not get that extra boost against an EX like Charizard. And just 1 energy found off this Trinity Nova. That's going to be big.
Yeah, still a couple in the prize cards, so going to be relying on double turbos, maybe those jet energies to get the rest of those energy cards into play. And this is a pretty good hand from Robert off
This
of
is amazing.
what he had. You know, we saw that Lost City being grabbed last turn, able to bump right away, has that Pidgeot, and I think there's a Rare Candy and a Charizard already in this hand.
You get the Boss's Orders here. Maybe take down that B-Barrel. I know it's not going to be easy for the prize trade, but
I think you just go after the Arceus here. Take the 2 prizes now, and especially because you have Rare Candy Charizard already, if your opponent takes a knockout on this Charizard, your second Charizard just knocks out the Arceus. I think this is Robert setting up for almost a checkmate board state.
well, here is that Rare Candy on that Charizard EX. Able to grab, I think, just the 1 energy left.
Yeah, you do kind of want to make sure you have an energy or 2 left in the deck to retreat if your opponent tries to stick your other Charmander active to buy a turn to get back into the game. That would be pretty bad. So I think this is really looking strong, though, for Robert, and I think Nathan's going to have a hard time coming back from this position. Also does have that Tool Jammer. It's going to be pretty big here. There is that Box of Disasters. It would go down. Let's see Nathan's face when Tool Jammer comes out.
And he's just scooping up. Didn't even reveal the Tool Jammer. Just saying, yeah, you got it.
Okay, there we go. Robert taking game number 2. Charizard getting a little bit more set up, and Nathan just didn't have much he could do after that board state was established.
Yeah, I guess even with the Box of Disasters, if it takes the knockout on that Charizard EX, or you just eventually take the knockout, then the fresh Charizard EX is going to come up, knock out the Arceus VSTAR. There's no hope for Nathan in that sequence of events.
Yeah, I think for this matchup for Nathan, he's got to just hope that 2 Charizards do not come into play. If you can limit those 2 Charizards and, you know, maybe buy enough time with those Path to the Peaks, you're going to be fine. And that's what we saw in game number 1, and maybe that's why he was so aggressively going after those Charmanders in that first game.
Well, here was that great turn 2 from Robbie here, having access to that Charizard EX, that stadium bump with that Lost City, and then fetches the Lost City with the extra quick search, not even needing it for the setup.
Yeah, wisely prepping for the next turn, and he was able to find a rare candy off the prizes. He was able to draw for turn into the Charizard, and that was just going to be too far ahead. Nathan had an okay setup, but yeah, things just worked out pretty solidly for Robert. And I almost wonder, as Nathan, if you want to take just the one prize KO to start the game. I think if Nathan can just replicate what happened in game number 1, he's pretty solid in this matchup.
Yeah, maybe opting for something like instead of the boss or the escape rope bringing up the Rotom, I guess really change the dynamic of that game for Robbie.
Something I would love to see from Nathan is to choose to go second. Make Robert go first. I don't think it's happening, though, as Nathan has already drawn for turn. Nothing too crazy in these prize cards for either player. A couple energy cards for Nathan.
For Sealstone, there is
just the one in the deck, so that actually does matter on Robert's end. But yeah, it does look like Nathan chose to go first. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen him go second. This Charizard deck is so much weaker when it goes first. You don't get to Arven. It makes it so much harder for you to get set up, and then you're so unlikely to get 2 stage 2s in play on the second turn of the game.
Nathan starting off with an Arceus V, finds that Zacian V, I guess with no energy in hand. This is where it's going to come in handy.
It's going to have to go for it. Does have a bunch of Nest Ball. You can see a couple Bibarel come down, or Bidoof, I should say, to become Bibarel later on. Ooh, and I actually like this grab as well. That Spiritomb is going to make it so that basic Pokemon in V in play. Well, I guess he can't put it in play, right?
Yeah, because of the Zacian.
If he wants to Zacian this turn, he cannot put the Spiritomb in play. It would be nice because it's super strong against this Charizard deck. You
especially with Robbie's hand.
Shut off Luminion, shut off the Rotoms, stuff like that. But yeah, can't go for it. Fettered Misfortune would turn off the Zacian V on Nathan's end as well.
Roar of the Sword is going to search the deck for a Psychic Energy, attach it to the active Arceus V, and it will end Nathan's turn. Robbie draws another Fire Energy, 3 in hand. That's not where you want them to be. Has that Luminion V, but other than that, I think this hand is not much. There's a Charmeleon, those 3 energy, Level Ball, Escape Rope.
This is the prime example of why this deck wants to go second. Being able to use Luminion, Confined Arven, and that's going to bail Robert out here big time. Now, the problem is going to be that 4 Sealstone is prized.
Yeah.
In this situation, if 4 Sealstone was in the deck, Robert could go Arven, Battle VIP Pass, 4 Sealstone, use the VIP Pass, get your board set up for a Sealstone for probably another VIP Pass. The problem here is, without that 4 Sealstone, what does Robert get off the VIP Pass? If you get 1 Pidgey, 1 Charmander, your 1 Charmander just gets KO'd. If you get 2 Charmanders, well, then you're not getting a Pidgeot in play on the second turn of the game.
Well, here we see Arven going to find that Battle VIP Pass, and then do you even take a tool here? Do you just leave him in? I guess
Yeah, it's probably worth thinning something out of the deck. You know, just put the Defiance Band in your hand. You assume your opponent will take a prize next turn, so give yourself some options. Yeah, this hand is really tough here for Robert. Does have a Level Ball in the hand, actually, so that makes things a little easier. VIP Pass can get the couple of Charmanders. Level Ball can get the Pidgey. You still have some play next turn.
just over 8 minutes left in this round 4 match. Both of these players needing to really get set up first, and then we're going to start seeing some prize cards, but Nathan's not able to take those prizes as fast as you want to in this match.
Yeah, Nathan's deck definitely is a little bit slower. I mean, both of these decks, it feels like this matchup is going to be just like 2-hit KOs back and forth, and then eventually Robert can get a 1-hit KO at the end of the game, potentially.
Battle VIP Pass does find that Charmander. Pidgey Level Ball will find another Charmander here. Other than that, that's going to end Robbie's turn, and with a hand that's not very good here. Maybe you get the Mew. You have the Escape Rope.
Yeah, the problem is if you get the Mew, then you just have one Charmander, and that just gets boss KO'd, right? So
Well, no, the Mew's going to find a Battle VIP Pass.
It could. It's a little risky, of course. Yeah, starting the Radiant Arena is pretty tough. It's got 2 retreat, a little annoying, and we will just indeed see that Escape Rope being played. Are we going to see the Call for Family? Yeah, get another Pidgey out. This way you guarantee that you can have a Pidgey out next turn, or at least the option to potentially have one. No Rotom coming into play this game.
Just going to grab that Mew. You need to really dig for this hand, but it's going to get Iono'd back into the deck most likely.
Pretty great draw for Nathan. Finds the Ultra Ball. That can get the Arceus V-Star or Bibarel, either of those two options. I think you probably want to guarantee that you'll have the Arceus, so looks like the V-Star will be pulled to the front.
Now, with the way this list is built, Nathan has those 2 jet energies to really help bring the Arceus back to the active spot. In this instance, where you only have 1 Psychic,
Yeah.
going to have to rely on that 1 Escape Rope.
Yeah, luckily you can find it with the Starbirth, but you'd like to maybe get some other combo pieces. He's got some time, though, to... I mean, he can go for the Iono, see what he draws, and then go for the Starbirth. I think that's what I'd like to see him do, but maybe he's going to go for a different supporter line. I don't know what you get here besides Double Turbo and Escape Rope, though.
Ooh, that's going to be rough.
It's going to be Double Turbo Bibarel.
Is Escape Rope even in the deck?
Yeah, maybe it was prized, and we just missed it there in the prizes real fast. But does not grab that. Does not have the guaranteed attack just yet. Yeah.
Going to have to just Trinity Charge for this turn, but Industrious Incisors will be able to find a path to the peak at least.
Yeah, the path is definitely a huge hit here. Try to slow Robert down as much as possible. Cross your fingers that there's no Stadium Bump in the hand. And Robert just really won't be able to do much without a Stadium card. And yeah, Robert's hand, there's no supporter, no Stadium, just a bunch of energy cards and a Pidgeot.
Oh, Escape Rope is prized along with 3 energy, so that's why we saw Nathan take this approach here.
Yep. Rope not being available, that's his 1 switch card, so he knew he was going to need to go for this Trinity Charge this turn.
I guess we're just retreat, Mysterious Tail, hope to find something to break out of this hand.
Yeah, Lost Vacuum's your only way to get rid of the path to the peak.
I guess Rare Candy, you can Rare Candy to Pidgeot.
Yeah, at least get it into play so that, you know, next turn, if you find a Stadium Bump, you have that option. You know, get it into play right now while you can, while your opponent's not going to Iono it out of your hand.
And then you can attach an energy to the Charmeleon and then just pass the turn. But that's all Robbie really has. And the way this start has gone for both of these players, only a little over 4 minutes left. I don't know if we're going to be able to actually finish this game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Do you see Rare Candy into the Pidgeot, evolve into the Charmeleon like you mentioned. See what Nathan can pull together. Another Ultra Ball can get the second Bibarel.
Going to have to discard a double turbo along with a choice belt, though. And with the energy in the prize cards, it's going to get really low as you continue this game as well.
Yeah, with a few energy already in play, if Nathan can just find another Arceus V-Star, I think he'll be okay with this position for sure. You know that the energies are going to be more protected when your opponent is not taking knockouts on Arceus Vs.
First Industrious Incisors here. Find some bosses orders?
Yeah, it does have that boss, and we could see Power Edge just take the knockout on Charmeleon. I think is exactly what we're going to see. Maybe at least look 1 more card with the Bibarel, but no, just the retreat, attach. Okay, and then use this Industrious Incisors. And there's an Ultra Ball. Yeah, Nathan, I think, is really going out of his way to not Iono his opponent. He can tell his opponent's hand is not very strong.
And that's where playing in person differs dramatically from playing online. Getting to read your opponent's body language and seeing just how they play their cards.
Robert just promoting this Mew, finds a Charizard. Oh, if that Charmeleon hadn't gone down, he could have evolved into Charizard and attached. He'd have had a Charizard totally ready to go.
Countercatcher found, but that's not really going to help with that jet energy in hand.
Yeah, Countercatcher and Prey is not the place you want to be, and I think that's where Nathan unfortunately finds himself right now. Hope that this can buy him a turn, and we just see Nathan has the response right in his hand, that jet energy.
This has not been a game for Robbie here. This Charizard deck has not shown any really supporter. The only supporter played was an Arven that was searched with that Luminion V.
Choosing to bring up the Zacian. Instead, we see the draw for turn is a Lost Vacuum, and Jet Energy just shoots that Arceus right back to the active. If Nathan can find another boss's orders here, it is going to be hard for Robert to come back from that. Doesn't look like he found it just yet, though. Still has 1 more Industrious Incisors. Is not going to use it, though. Doesn't have another card he wants to play out of his hand to make it happen.
And I think with the speed that Nathan is playing, we might actually conclude this game 3.
Yeah, in this position as Nathan, you really need to try to not think too much about your plays.
Yeah.
Draw, attack, and just keep taking knockouts every single turn if you can. Otherwise, this could end in a tie, and Robert could sneak away with a 1 match point. If you come away with 1 match point here as Robert in this position, you count that as a win.
Well, it would be counted as a tie. But
Sure, as far as the tournament is concerned. But in Robert's mind and as a player, you would definitely count that as a win.
We're going to see a Blazing Destruction here. Discard that Pat to the peak, but it's the
that's
only
one
Charmander.
I think Nathan is just fine with that.
Discard that Lumineon V off of the Avery. Box of Disasters to the active. Radiant Alakazam to the bench. There's the knockout. No energy left, so just taking a quick shuffle of the deck. Nathan down to 3 prize cards left. 1 minute remaining.
Yeah, needs to draw these prize cards. We'll see how long Robert's turn takes here.
Oh, wow, the Lost Vacuum found
A little too late.
a little too late, yeah. Quick
We'll see.
search.
Iono and Prey, I think, is the line here.
But Iono and Prey, when your opponent has 2 Industrious Incisors available to them.
And with time ticking down here, with Robert grabbing that Iono, I have to imagine time is going to end on this turn. So that'll make Robert turn 0. So Nathan will have turn 1 and turn 3 to try to find a way to take 3 prize cards. And unfortunately,
With the Avery.
with that Avery discarding the Lumineon, that's going to be, I think, something Nathan can't do. Yeah, that Avery might end up actually costing Nathan here big time.
Couple Battle VIP Pass found for Robbie here. You can discard those with his Ultra Ball. But it just means this turn's going to take a little bit longer, and we're going to see that time being called.
Yeah, Ultra Ball can hang around in the hand, honestly, as well. So you can get Charizard next turn. Looks like he will choose to play it. Just get another Charmander, most likely. In time, it does look like has been called. Robert will be turn 0 here. So Robert cannot win. Nathan, if Robert doesn't bench a 2-prize Pokemon that is easily KO'd by Arceus, Nathan cannot win either.
The good old turn 9 Rotom V bench. Like,
He just pulled it to the front of his deck there for a second, by the way. So he might be thinking about going for the instant charge, but no, does choose to think better of it. Okay, good.
going to see another Rare Candy Pidgeot EX, but cannot use 2 Quick Search in 1 turn.
Yep.
That is
Important
Yeah.
little caveat there to this Pokemon.
and then just a pass. So turn 1 for Nathan here.
Yeah, and Nathan is probably kicking himself here for playing that Avery, because that Avery being played meant that, and they're even talking about it right now, that Avery meant that the Lumineon got to be discarded, and Nathan has no win condition at this point. He can attack. You know, even if he bosses orders, takes a 1-prize KO on Serena or that Charmander, just there's nothing he can do next turn to take his last 2 prizes, and they recognize the situation, extend the hand. This match ends in a tie.
You got to do what you got to do when there's so much on the line in these tournaments.